Coming to you from the mountains and the plain. The only conservative voices brave enough to push back. This is the Conservative Daily Podcast with Joe Otto.
That's what the Second Amendment was designed to do. If you're going to do something to nullify or take away my rights under the Constitution, come get it.
Max McGuire.
When you look at politicians on the left, they need to convince people that they are victims.
A resistance to the resistance. And now your hosts, Joe Otto and Max McGuire.
Welcome to another episode of Conservative Daily Podcast. This is Joe Otto. This will be the first time that I've actually gotten out here, I think, Josh, where I've done it myself. So I'm doing the podcast here by myself. Max is not here today because Max has a baby. So here is Michael Francis McGuire, born at 3:02 a.m. at 9 pounds, 9 ounces, 21.5 inches long. And for those of you that can't see this, if you're listening to the podcast, little McGuire is actually wearing a Make America Great Again hat, and Max looks like he has been up all night. So I would say it's a good day. It's a good day in the McGuire family. I want to say congratulations to Max and Annie. It's really great that you have another addition to the family. I'm trying to figure out how MJ Michael Jr. is going to actually, or Max Jr. is actually going to handle the new baby, but I think it should be good. It should be good. So today we're going to talk about ACB is a Supreme Court justice. Wait, did you see what just happened here? See this? I just want to take a moment of silence for a minute and talk about the fact that we have a new Supreme Court justice. And it's the third one in a 4-year that one president has been able to, in a 4-year period of time, put on the bench. Since Reagan. I did forget that part. So I just want to tell you that it's been a crazy couple of months. And one of the things that we try to look for is small wins. And so this isn't a small win, it's a really big win. So we should be really excited about what's happening right now because frankly what we're finding ourselves doing is defending. And many of you say, "Hey, listen, Joe, I don't believe what we're doing is working. I don't believe that we are actually making a difference." Well, President Trump and the Republicans, frankly, have had enough courage to kind of fight through all of this loony leftist mentality that's happened and get Coney Barrett actually elected to SCOTUS, as a SCOTUS. So we're going to be talking about that today. You can call us, 888-441-1121 if you want to give me, I'm by myself right now, if you want to give us your advice or give us your opinion on, oh, I'm sorry, and I have Josh. Josh might pop in here every now and then as well and say hi. He's going to keep me unlonely. But if you want to tell us what you think of the confirmation, we have a couple of clips, and I'm going to walk through a couple of those with you if I can. And those are clips of some of the things that people, the reactions. And I think one that we should probably talk about was the Congresswoman from Hawaii, Hirono. I don't want to get fact checked. So yeah, Hirono, Senator Hirono, when she cast her ballot, go ahead and play cut one.
Mr. Sullivan.
Aye.
Oh, what happened?
What? I'll fix it.
Please fix it. Josh, one day, Max isn't even here to give you a hard time. I mean, I don't even know what just happened here. People are waiting for that clip. See, this is what happens when you don't have Max here to keep Josh going. All right, you ready? He's still waiting for him. Josh, you're failing us. You're failing us. You're failing us, Josh. All right. Playing cut 1.
Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Shelby, Ms. Cinema, Ms. Smith, Ms. Stabenow.
She had to walk up and say it. Hell no. Thumbs down. Okay. Well, haters are going to hate. She just happened to be one of those haters. Josh, what do you think about that? You could kind of pop in here for a minute. What do you think of her response?
Can you hear me, Joe?
I can hear
All
you.
right.
Can you guys
So,
hear Josh?
If you can, let me know. I'm pretty sure they can because it's going out there. Just the fact that she would walk up to the desk and being a senator of the United States and carrying the office or carrying the gravity of holding that kind of position and walking up and saying, hell no, about something like, I mean, it's cheap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, Democrats are petty and cheap, so there's that.
That's the other thing I was going to say is it feels petty, as though, you know, it's like a kid doesn't get their way and they stomp out cursing and saying, you know, I didn't want this and this isn't the way I want it. And it just felt childish. I mean, really childish.
I would agree with that. Childish is probably a good way to put it. So, you know, I get to squirrel as much as I want today, just so you know. So, everyone, I need you to hit the share button so that I can actually squirrel in peace. I don't have Max coming on here saying, hey, Joe, come on, we got to stick to what we're going to talk about. And I do want to talk about Amy Barrett. I do want to talk about how courageous she was. And there's a picture that I'm going to have Josh pull up in a minute, and that is when they asked Amy Barrett, Justice Barrett, they asked her, what notes are you actually using in order to answer these questions? And everyone knows that when she hung up the pad, she put the pad up. And Josh, can you find that for me?
Find that picture?
Yeah. So here's a woman that, frankly, is the example I think all of us should follow. So she is a mother first. She is a wife. And I don't mean wife meaning she's in the kitchen cooking and cleaning, and I'm sure she does quite a bit of that. But a person that lives out her values. And frankly, she lives out her values, and she gets attacked for those values very clearly by the Democrats. And not just the Democrats. Okay, there it is. Put up that picture. So this is when Amy Barrett was actually asked if what notes she was using, and she said, just the United States Senate. Right? So she was answering all those questions through the confirmation hearing just from her responses, her normal responses, from her head, from her noggin. So, which is much more than I can say for some of the other justices that are on the Supreme Court. Nothing against them, but it just shows you the magnitude of the type of individual that we're putting on the Supreme Court. And for the first time in a long time, we have a conservative majority. So we have 6 justices, 5 really conservative justices, and one that's kind of sitting on the fence in the middle in John Roberts. But we have a conservative majority, and the left is frankly losing their mind about this. They're losing their mind over the fact that they've caused all this ruckus. They have control of the media. They have control of weaponized technology, and yet they weren't able to stop the confirmation of Amy Barrett to the Supreme Court. So if you get a chance to call 888-441-1121, we've got a bunch of other clips, so do share this. We've got a bunch of other clips that we're going to show you. We're going to play cut 2. Go ahead and play cut 2. That's the judiciary vote.
Motion to report the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. The clerk will call the roll. Favorably to the floor. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Grassley.
Aye.
Mr. Cornyn. Mr. Lee. Mr. Cruz.
Joe, I want you to pay
Mr.
attention to the
Sam.
seats here, because
Mr.
if you notice that the seats are
Mr.
with the
Tillis.
ranking members there, but
Ms.
look at
Ernst.
all the empty seats that are
Mr.
filled with
Crapo.
pictures, because people
Mr.
are
Kennedy.
too busy
Mrs. Blackburn.
boycotting it.
Yeah.
Mrs. Feinstein. Mr. Leahy. Mr. Durbin.
All right, cut it. Yeah. So what's ridiculous about this is that you had people that said, oh, we're just going to boycott it. We're going to boycott the Judiciary Committee's vote. And that just shows you that they try to weaponize everything. So the Democrats, the loony left, has to try and weaponize, and they have. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Facebook is suppressing everything that we're doing. YouTube is suppressing everything that we're doing, everything that we're saying, right? And despite that, we're actually growing dramatically. Downloads are at an all-time high. Yesterday was a huge day for us. And we continue to actually climb the ladder of not just conservative podcasts, but podcasts for politics completely across the market. But they've weaponized technology. They've weaponized it completely. Facebook, Twitter, basically suppressing certain. And by the way, I don't believe that Facebook and Twitter and these guys have some AI that's doing the work for them. I believe that they have employees that they've literally put out there that are saying, hey, look, let's go follow this organization. Let's suppress as much as we can on that organization. Let's disrupt the broadcast. Let's lower their bandwidth. These are all things, like I'm in the tech industry myself, and as our organizations are in the tech industry. And we see it all the time. And we know what tech platforms are capable of doing because we get to experience it all the time on multiple levels. And so they've weaponized technology on one side. We're dealing with a massive amount of weaponization. And just to get an ideology across has nothing to do with truth. I mean, truth is completely ambiguous to them. But on the other side, they've also weaponized the media. So the same people that are heavily invested in these tech firms are also invested in the media side. So it's interesting that as we walk through this process and this confirmation, that even with the evil that we face in our country, we can actually have a significant win like we just experienced just now. So I'm going to walk through a couple more clips here, and then I'm going to go to one clip in particular that is going to make the it's going to make the, who do we have? Are you putting someone on? All right. All right. You don't tell me to hold on and then tell me to keep going, right? How about you just write something in the comments? I can't hold on. All right. What are we doing? All right. So can you play cut 3? All right, cut 3. This is really what the left felt yesterday after the confirmation of
Amy Coney Barrett was just confirmed to the Supreme Court. So all those times I said I was queer, oh my God, you guys, that was so funny. And this necklace, a total joke. Oh my God, I was just kidding. All those times I said men don't deserve rights. Oh my God, men are so great. I need a husband to show me how to be an adult, how to function. I'm dumb woman, no numbers. Everything's fine.
Oh, I can't do it. I am bursting with tears right now. Okay, maybe not tears. Maybe I'm bursting with laughter. What? I have a caller?
We have a very special guest, Joe, here. Let me bring them in.
All right, let's bring him in. All right, we're bringing
Hey, am I on the air?
Hey, Max! What's up, Daddy?
I want to call in because I'm watching a little bit, and I'm seeing clips not coming on. I'm seeing Joe bringing the Joe Biden sleepy energy, and I want to pump you guys up.
Hey, listen, Max. I stayed up, did I not? I stayed up. It was 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm sending him texts. Do we have a baby yet? Do we have a baby yet? Do we have a baby yet? I'm like, look, my eyes are heavy. My eyes are heavy. 2 o'clock in the morning, he sends me a text, 3 o'clock his time, and he's like, Michael's here. Yeah, then I had to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get the text that I got at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, all right, how's Annie? He didn't answer me. Right.
Well, yeah, there's a lot going on. I just wanted to call in and try and pump this show up because I'm looking at the numbers. These are rookie numbers. We got to pump these numbers up.
Rookie numbers?
Everyone,
nobody's even sharing.
You got to hit that share button. You got to hit that share button. You got to hit the like button. You got to comment. You got to hit the subscribe button and then hit the bell for notifications.
Hey,
you got to do all those things.
I did actually, Max, talk to a few people that said that they were out partying last night because of Amy Barrett getting confirmed, and that they went out last night and tied one on. So we did get an email this morning that said, Joe, I'm not going to be listening to your show. I'm going to have to download the podcast because, frankly, last night I drank a bottle. And I was like, oh, well, I guess that's fine. It's something you
And
should
of course,
share, I
you can
guess.
download that podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, TuneIn, all the great places. Link in the description.
He is a professional. Wow.
I know, and I don't have to do
Wow.
that's the great part about that. I have to. You can subscribe. I'll do that at the very end. But guys, hit the share button. We're gonna have a little fun today, and call in. Right, call in and have some fun.
Have you played the? I don't want to stay on too long. Have you played the clip of the fat lesbian crying?
Yes, we did.
Have you played the second one?
No, not yet. We
You have the second one?
We have not played the second one yet. Do you want us to play it while you're on the phone?
Yeah, let me listen to it.
Yeah, what are you doing, Josh? You are failing miserably. Today, look, when Max takes off,
Holy
all
crap,
of a sudden
guys.
Josh doesn't do his job.
Man, you guys are vicious over here. That's it. I'm going to just sit here and stare at pictures of tweets from Schumer saying that everybody's going to die.
Yeah.
All the unborn babies will now die because of
Darkest day in American history.
that. We have that one. I'll be happy to show. In fact, since we're talking about it now, let's just do it because this is the one. What do you say?
This is Schumer
There
telling
it
us
is.
we're going to
Schumer promises that generations yet unborn will suffer from Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation.
All right, so let me tell you what's interesting about the generations yet unborn. At least they will be born.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just call it what it is.
That's a plus.
At least they will be born. So one thing that we're gonna maybe we get to through this, not maybe, I mean we will get to, is some amount of accountability on the amount of abortions that are done that are destroying the minority communities. That's happening. That actually is happening. So I need some non-rookie numbers. You guys can't make me look this bad. So why don't you literally hit the share button and make me feel better? Maybe it's just not a big deal that ACB is a Supreme Court justice. Maybe you don't want to call in. Maybe I just don't need to do this.
I feel like Matthew McConaughey from Wolf of Wall Street right now. I got this dragon energy. I'm high on cocaine. You guys are all sleepy, and I'm over here telling you to pump your rookie numbers up.
Yeah, and he's been up all night. Yeah, but you know what, Max? You have all that dragon energy because I just want to say, Max, thanks for calling.
Have a good one, guys.
See you, brother. So I do want to tell you that Max is the one that actually prepares the show, right? And I get to show up, and he sends me an email and goes through and says, hey, look, this is all. So today, Josh's job was to actually prepare the show, and he's doing a very terrible job of that. I'm just kidding. He's doing a great job.
What the heck, man?
All right. But we want to walk through a couple of tweets, right, that we have of reactions to Amy Barrett. So here's one, image one. Here's one from Edward Hardy. Shortly after she was confirmed to the Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett participated in a partisan photo op. This is a shameful moment in American history. I don't know how it could be shameful when this woman is the sharpest woman I think that I have seen in decades in any position. And she, I think what they're afraid of, the left is afraid of, is that somehow there's going to be this super advocacy that happens in legislation that happens in the judiciary. And I mean, I'm here to tell you that if you haven't been paying attention so far over the last couple decades, that's exactly what the Ninth Circuit has done traditionally across the country. They've done everything they can to block the legislation. They've done everything they can to block Republican and or conservative bills from passing or being implemented. They have literally advocated through the judiciary in order to create legislation. They've done that. And so they're seeing this as maybe they use this against us. Maybe we get to the point where they start actually getting smart enough to do the things that we've been doing. But the problem is, conservatives, we don't act that way. We're not built that way. Like we don't live our lives in the gutter. We don't live our lives with evil intentions. We live our lives typically saying to ourselves, all right, how do we make the world a better place? So here's an interesting statistic that you should know about. On the average American out there, Democrats versus Republicans, radicals versus conservatives. And I say radicals because I do believe that there's a large portion of Democrats that are actually conservative. Right? They have social issue differences, and I'm fine with that. I accept people where they are, not where I want them to be. but a large majority of conservatives, right? So that lean right. 71% of those people, 71% of the giving that happens traditionally happens on the right. 71%. 71% of each donation that's given, right? Now, you have we'll take the political donations out. I'm talking about giving to the poor, supporting the needy. That happens because of conservatives, right? Now, hey, Josh, would you be surprised if I told you the disparity between the donations at 71% represents 71% of all donations by transaction? Would you like to know the multiple of one way or the other? I mean, maybe the other 29% gives more than the 71% on the conservative side. What do you think that is? What do you think that number is?
As far as donation amount?
Yeah.
$100?
No. We won't talk about dollars. We'll talk about just like, is it 4 times the amount, 3 times the amount that the Democrats or the loony left gives? What do you think that disparity is?
I'd say like 3 times the amount if I had to guess at it.
5.7 times.
Holy smokes, really?
So conservatives give 71% of all transactions that happen, right, to help the poor, to help the needy, right, at a rate of 5.7 times more than the 29% that's on the left. So I want you to understand that the value of what I'm saying to you is because they talk about something, but they end up doing something different. And so you see all of these people that have these reactions and say, hey, this is a terrible day in history. It's a terrible day in history when we get to the place where conservatism in this country gets attacked the way it is, when they are the ones that are giving and doing and providing and supporting the people in this country. I think that's absolutely abhorrent that we're even letting them have a voice. The reality is that we let them have a voice because they own the media. So they have the voice because they've creeped in. That's been a part of their strategy over the last 50 years. And by the way, conservatives, we don't think that way. We don't wake up one day and say to ourselves, you know what I want to do? I actually want to have a 50-year plan of how I can destroy the left. That's not how conservatives view things. Conservatives view things of like, how can I make our society better? While the left comes in and says, we need to eliminate God from our society, we need to eliminate God from our schools, we need to indoctrinate our kids and tell them that, hey, in 2nd grade, you're not actually a boy, you need to hold on to that, you might be something different. They've taken the LGBT environment and added the alphabet behind it and basically said, hey, you can be one of 94 genders. You know, these are all things that aren't perspective of the norm. They're not even perspective of the norm for anyone that is liberal, right? The traditional liberals are not actually looking at this going, this is normal, right? Hey, you could be an elephant. We have a caller? All right, let's bring a caller in. Who do we have? Zach, you're on with Joe Otto. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I was told to bring up ACB, but you're kind of on a tangent right now, so I don't know what to focus in on.
Well, just focus. Just focus on the unfocused as I'm on a tangent.
I would say the 2 things to focus on out of your donations that you were just talking about is that the church is actually responsible for a lot of the giving, actually, and they got attacked as well. Because I remember back when I was 16, we'd go on like mission trips as a church and plan those around the world and feed people. We went to the Manila dump, and it was very eye-opening for me as a kid. So it's weird that they want to kind of crucify the church as this non-inclusive, not wanting to help society, and they're judgmental people. And that's generalizing people exactly like what they're all against all the time, because Christians aren't all that way. Just some of the bad ones are not good people to other people.
So did you go to a public school or did you go to a parochial school? What kind of school did you go to in high school?
Both. I went to 8th grade at a Christian school and got in at 4th grade. Before that was public. And then public for 8th through 12th grade.
All right. Now, did you ever notice, did you play sports during that time that you were in the Christian school?
Yes, soccer.
And so both of my kids went to a Christian high school, right? And they played sports. And it was amazing when I would show up to watch them play sports that there'd be a hit or a play, and the other team, which was we played public schools, would come out and say, "Oh yeah, that's so Christian of you," and we're thinking to ourselves, "We're trying to win. Like this is a game we're playing, right?" And it was there was this mocking judgment that happened every time we would walk out. They would walk out on the field, and you even saw that mocking judgment happen from the referees and from the coaches on the other side of the team. So it really is. We created this kind of demon where we can actually start mocking and attacking and persecuting Christians, right?
Yeah.
And I think that
showing God's love, right?
Right. It's absolutely showing God's love. And Zach, I have to tell you that those experiences that you have where you went with the church to different areas. Tell me about the most memorable experience you had.
I went twice to the Philippines,
okay.
And we went to the Manila dump, which is the most impoverished place in the world.
People live there.
And we fed them food. Yeah, people live in the garbage, actually. They build houses out of the garbage.
Yeah.
And when you talk about putting life into perspective and really being happy for what you were born with in America, where these spoiled kids are just, it's so terrible here. It's like, go see Manila.
Yeah.
Go see the world and see what's out there, guys, because we have it so, I mean, we are so lucky that we were one of the small percentage of people that was born in the United States.
Yeah, and we
got here either way,
and we take it for granted, and then we think that somewhere along the line, that the U.S. should be the savior for the rest of the world, and there's 8 billion people in the world, so we can do our part because most of the, like you said, most of the giving does come through the church, but we can do our part with that. But it does take not bringing everyone to the United States, not bringing that disparity to the despair to the United States. It does take certainly taking care of the people in our country first, and then serving and giving others with God's love. So, hey, Zach, thanks for calling. I do appreciate your call.
Yeah, can I say one more thing on that topic that you had? And that's in construction, which is the industry that I work in, we're 5.4 million workers short right now, and the average career pays like $80,000. So when you have, there is two separate markets in the construction industry, and most consumers don't even understand that there is that labor that will work for nothing as far as working, because it's all under the table money, and they get taken advantage of because they're actually worth more in the U.S. market, and we're short jobs right now. So realistically, they should be making what everyone else is making, but because of the under table with that, it makes it hard. And then abortion, I want you to talk a little bit about that and what you think the changes are going to be to abortion, like late term, when the fetus is viable on its own. Do you think they'll roll that back, or where do you think they'll look at taking it to?
Well,
and that's all I got.
All right. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about both of those things. One, I want to talk about the job market, right? So a decision was made about 15 years ago to bring out or take out some of the vocational training that happened in high schools. And they said, oh, it's not necessary. It can happen outside of it. We weren't facing a shortage at that time, but we were short-sighted. So the unions typically have been the ones that have actually trained or brought people through in the plumbing trade, the electronics, or through the power trades and different trades in construction. But the reality of it is because there was never a conduit that was actually teaching kids that, hey, these are options. They were just pushing them towards university. We've now faced a drought. So those 5.4 million jobs, you'd say that, hey, you have these people working under the table right now and they could make honest wage. I think we do have to take a look at the people that are in this country, that have been in this country for decades. I know it's not going to be popular with some people to say, hey, so what you're saying is that we should actually bring back and support DACA. That's not what I'm saying. We just have to create a pathway, I think, for those people to actually get citizenship and make it less expensive and less frankly, just make it less difficult if you're already in the country.
Yeah.
And then I do think we need to firm up our borders, and I think we need to give opportunity to the people that are already in our country and bring back vocational education inside of schools, where other countries around the world have actually strengthened those vocational trainings or vocational studies. We've actually gone backwards. And once we realize that going backwards is the wrong thing to do with this, this kind of burst of technology and innovation that's happened over the last couple of decades, I think we're just late to the table on that side. Now,
my dad used to tell me too when I was little that he never wanted me to be involved in construction. And it's like the old business model, so many construction companies are run inefficiently, just company-wise right now, where they're not automated. There's no scaling in the company because it's all on the owner, that construction companies actually scale very well if you can build it, but unions aren't per diem like my contracts are with my installers. So per diem is the best way to go, because like my guy worked 29 hours and he got paid for 36 hours on Tuesday. It's just like auto body
piece rate
work that they make more money. Instead of the union where it's like you just get your standard rate and no matter what you do, it doesn't really matter. That's that's the business model for independents to take to make good money.
It's not very difficult to get off off subject when one thing leads to the other, and you just actually said it, that the union just pays you what they want to pay you, right? And they negotiate your salary for you, but there's no opportunity for advancement, no opportunity for an upside. And frankly, I think
why do you work harder?
And unions, by the way, have been the ones that have suppressed what's happened with teachers, right? They've created this kind of victim mentality even on the teacher side. So I completely agree with you. The good news is I think that there are, private industries actually coming in and saying, let's create vocational schools. They're connecting with public education systems and even Christian schools to say, hey, here's some vocational training opportunities that we have that are available, that I think is over the next decade. We're not going to solve this problem overnight, but I think that over the next decade we should see kind of a normalize. If we keep our borders secure.
We need to, because the average age is 52 in the industry, and they're 5.4 million jobs short already. So it's like we're going to have infrastructure pandemic going on soon without having anyone building anything in the United States or fixing anything.
Well, and I mean, I know, frankly, it took us nearly 5 months for my wife and I to find a construction company we could count on. So not only do we face a shortage, there's just a lot of not great options out there that people are getting stuck with and getting burned with, and I think that's affecting the industry as well. It used to be craftsmanship above all else, and I think that some of that has actually dried up a little bit. So, Zach, thanks for being on. Later. All right, take care. I want to answer the question that Zach had. I think we have somebody else on the line as well, but I'm gonna answer this last question, and that is the changes that we think are going to happen on abortion. That I think that we're all wondering, like what is going to change? Like what is going to change in the Supreme Court with the abortion issue by itself? Obviously, I'm pro-life. I think many people are pro-life, but with science, it's changed the viability, the time of viability for a baby. And so if that's true, then I don't think we can take the approach that they've taken now, which is late-term abortions are okay. I mean, some of them are at I think that the record is 19 weeks or 21 weeks is the soonest that a baby has been born premature and has actually survived. And so, we don't want abortion to become a form of contraception. We just don't. I mean, as people, that we don't want to believe in a society that sets God aside and decides that the most sacred thing that we have, life, that we can just throw it away, that it can become discarded. So I do hope that there are massive changes that happen. I do hope that there is a judicial response from the Supreme Court that limits nationally the ability for us to make abortion a convenience and to kill babies a convenience. So I hope that answered your question, Zach. Obviously, I don't know what comes down the pike, and but I sure hope that this fight that we've made to save the unborn actually continues to evolve into something that sees more babies live. So who do we have on the call?
Joe, real quick, hitting baby that's 22 weeks or younger has not survived, according to some of the research I can find.
Yep.
Which is, that's not long at all.
Right, not at all. 22 weeks. So what's the record? Yeah, somewhere around there. Okay, we got Daniel on the call. Daniel. Well, we're bringing Daniel on. See, Josh is really, he's off a little bit today. All right, Daniel, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks for calling in, Daniel.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, man, I just, talking about abortion and values, man. I just kind of ask, like, why has the Democrats primarily, the Demo-rats, why have they kind of shied away from the Judeo-Christian values and the capitalistic ideals that America was founded on in the first place? Like one of the senators during the Amy Coney Barrett confirmation said that the Constitution, or originalism in the Constitution, was discrimination. It was the form of discrimination within the judicial system. And I just don't understand that, because in America, we fought a bloody civil war. We moved in 1778 as one of the first states to globally try to abolish slavery the year after we formed America. I just don't understand the idea that America is systemically racist at its core because the Constitution didn't protect the majority of, or a certain protected classes of people within the confines of the Constitution as we saw it in 1776.
And think about this, Daniel, you're absolutely right. But think about this. I mean, if we're just talking about logic, number one, you firm up your foundation first, right? So the idea of slavery, the idea of imperialism did not come from the United States. We actually wanted to break away from that. So we were actually telling Britain, hey, we want to get away from you guys, right? We fought that Civil War in order to have independence. And that thought leadership that actually built the Constitution, if you just pay attention to it even a little bit, had to be ordained by God. Right, because think about the thought process in order to enact the Electoral College. Think about the process of how they firmed up the foundation of the original states, and then from there move to say, okay, we want to abolish slavery. We don't see slavery as something that we should be doing as a country. Right, that led us to, by the way, just other conflicts and wars and divides within our own society on what was or was not acceptable. But the Democrats, literally, by taking God out of the equation, and by the way, rewriting history. So they're going all the way back to the Constitution and saying, oh, well, the principles of the Constitution were racist. The principles of the Constitution were to oppress people. Well, that's a revisionist history. That's not what happened. So they write books about this, and then these books get published, and those publishers literally go out there and they push this, again, indoctrination out into the market. But I don't know what else I don't know where we'd be if we weren't having a conversation about what we allowed to have happen to our education system, because that's where it starts, right? I know that 25 years ago when I went to college, I had communist professors, and I used to laugh at them, right? Well, nobody's laughing at them.
100%.
They're not laughing at these communist Marxist professors anymore. They're following them. And those communist professors are actually recruiting. So the system's been turned around. Yeah.
So locally, real quick, so locally, we, back in the 70s, back my college near me, Hobart William Smith Private College, basically, back in the 70s, they had this guy named Tommy the Traveler. He was a FBI agent turned narcotics unit with Ontario County. This is up in upstate New York.
Yeah.
With Ontario County Sheriff's Office, just randomly left the FBI, went to the Sheriff's Office, started working with them. He was thought to be a provocateur back then, and they had a professor who ended up, long story short, they ended up, 2 students bombed a ROTC center. They rioted. Tommy was caught as a cop there. They surrounded Tommy. One of the professors disabled the 7 people got arrested, including one of the Hobart William Smith professors. Locally today, we have a professor who teaches a communism class, who's a self-professed communist. She's part of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, writes in the liberationnews.org. But so in the Democratic committee locally, about 70% of our Democratic representatives are within 1 degree of separation of Hobart William Smith College. And that's where you see it on a local level, then you bring it to a national level, the indoctrination versus where that indoctrination takes you through policy. And a lot of the times it's not even policy that is grinding the gears of the system. When it comes to those people, it's procedure that grinds the gears of systems. And that's what the Democrats are trying to do on a national level with the judicial system. They're trying to use procedure to grind the gears rather than policy.
Right, and frankly, they make it too expensive, right, and very difficult to maneuver. And so they have found a way to come together in different positions of trust. And then once they all got there at the same time, that's why we're dealing with what we're dealing with today. Right? I mean, we're dealing with a similar environment where there are professors that are out there leading young people, right? And they're leading young people in a direction that leads to communism. What's interesting is my daughter went to a school down in Florida, and they offered a communism class. I mean, literally a class about communism. And so I called,
nothing else, not communism 101,
No.
not any, just communism.
Yeah, communism. And so I called the school and I was like, this is not acceptable for me. You need to remove that class. And they go, well, we try to give an open forum so people can understand different environments so that they're fully balanced. And I was like, that's not balanced. We don't live in a communist society. And selling them the idea, I've seen the studies on this, selling them the idea that this is some utopian dream that we can actually implement in the United States, frankly, is disgusting, and you're doing it to kids. So,
well, and one of the other things that I want to bring up too about indoctrination is that the Chinese back in the it was either the Vietnam or the Korean War, they would take the POWs and they would indoctrinate them in a very similar way that colleges do today. So They would take a POW soldier, they would say, "Yo, you get an apple if you write a essay about how the economy isn't that bad under communism." And in doing so, that would be a what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I drew a blank. But anyways, they would it'd be a concession of their values,
right,
or of their beliefs, but it wouldn't be that big of a concession. And they're really, in their Western mentality, they're really not getting that much because it's just an apple. But to a starving POW, that's a lot. And same thing with these college students. That A+ from that communist professor is a lot. But in the real world, is it that much? And that's where the indoctrination comes in.
Well, hey, I want to thank you for your call, Daniel. It's been great having you on. God bless you, and keep up the good fight. So what's interesting about what we're hearing today in society is that societal norms, what we're hearing in the media, what they're actually doing, they created a path. I mean, if you remember 20 years ago, they said every kid should go to college. Well, do you believe that? Do you believe that every kid should go to college? They've made education cheaper. Not cheaper as far as what it costs, cheaper as far as what value you get out of it. There are kids today that come in to interview for jobs here at our company that come out of college, and we will go through 100 to find just one candidate. And then we go through that candidacy and look and interview that individual, only to find out that they don't have the life skills in order to cope in the work environment. So I'm telling you that there's a serious problem where the kids are being undersold. They're being undertaught what's really important, and they're being indoctrinated with stuff that's not important. They're being stripped of the ability to understand what true skills they need in life in order to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, in order to give them a different life, which is you should be depending on and working for, right, and listening to our government. Well, if we go back in history over the last 100 years, if we go back any further, the government historically has not done the greater good for the people in this country. They just haven't, right? And I guess I shouldn't go back 100 years, because if you get back into World War II, there was a thoughtful progression that happened when we got into that war. But here we are today. We've eliminated opportunity for kids, to send them to college to fail, brought down the education mark so we can graduate kids from high school who frankly can't read at a 6th grade level. And yet we wonder what's happening in our society. All of this, by the way, are mandates from the Democrats. We talk about what's happened in Democrat-run cities. And I know that I'm getting off topic with ACB, but ACB is a Supreme Court justice. She's going to be able to solve and help solve some of the bigger problems that face our nation from a law perspective, from a interpretation of law, interpretation of the Constitution, interpretation of what the Constitution is supposed to mean. But as we get further down, this is just one part of our society that frankly is a complete disaster. Just one part. What about the other parts? What about the other parts where the Democrats are running people off the cliffs? They're killing people. They're saying that they support and that Black Lives Matter, but do they? Do they to them? You know, you have, what is it, Mayor Lightfoot? Is it Mayor Lightfoot? Yeah. Mayor Lightfoot comes out and starts screaming at people for why they're not allowing themselves to be locked down. They're confused. Leaders are confused. Why aren't the American people listening to us? Why are they rising up against us? How can they support Donald Trump? I'll tell you how they can support Donald Trump. I'll make it really simple for you, right? He unselfishly gave up billions of dollars and going and golfing and hanging out with his beautiful wife and his beautiful family to come help fix the country. He gave away his salary, and all that has happened over the last 4 years is that he's lost about $1 billion of wealth. And has he complained once? Has he gotten on TV and said, I can't believe they took away my $1 billion. I can't believe I'm losing money. I can't believe I'm having to donate my salary. I can't believe I even did that. Donate my salary that I get every year to those most in need. He did all of that while the left punches him and calls him a racist. While the left punches him and calls him a misogynist and every ism out there. But what has he really done? I mean, we could count the things that he's done. He's reset the rules on NAFTA, right? He got us out of the Paris Accord, which was an absolute disaster. He's forced other countries to give their fair share to the UN. He's defunded the WHO, which frankly had to happen. He's gotten us out of countless deals. Oh, I'm sorry. He just actually brokered a peace deal that they've been working on for the last 50 years. But hey, no big deal. The fake news CNN can come out and say, hey, we don't have to cover that. We don't have to cover that at all. So I look at this degradation. I look at the fact that, yeah, we solved this problem with ACB, but there's much more work to be done. And the other part with us is that we go to sleep and we allow the Democrats to destroy society. We allow the Democrats to do things because, frankly, we're out there working. But I'm going to tell you right now, if we stop here, if we don't actually start the fight on November 4th, not say, okay, the fight's over, we won that. President Trump is back in for another 4 years. Let's let him do the fighting for us. If we continue down that path of doing that, we will fail. We will fall as a nation. If we continue to let universities do what they're doing without creating new schools, right? Because frankly, that's what it's going to take. That's the thing that we have to do in order to solve many of these problems. We have to create our own schools. Get away from the unions. You want to get away from the unions? Starve it. You want to stop them from actually indoctrinating our kids? Stop sending them to these universities, right? Create our own universities that actually teach people life skills. They say that Harvard is the best school to go to. They go to Harvard, right? I'm sorry. I don't have anything against Harvard. I think if you went to Harvard, God bless you. But the Harvard of today is not the Harvard of yesterday. Today, it's become a center of indoctrination. Most of the Ivy League schools have. And they have tenure for these professors to come in and indoctrinate our children. Maybe, Josh, that's what we should have done this show about, is really what's happening in our country and how many different ways are we being attacked. And the fact that, frankly, you have an obligation, if you're listening to this, you have an obligation to do something about it. But you haven't done anything about it up to this point. I mean, let's be honest. You haven't done anything. Right? And frankly, I'm a part of that problem as well. I spent the last 13 years with Conservative Daily. I've never put my face on the radio show. I decided 6 months ago we would do this podcast. I went to Max and I was like, look, I want to do a podcast every day, every single day. I'll give you my time, 1 hour, 1.5 hours a day, and I will put myself out there. I put everything on the line, but I waited 13 years to do it. In the meantime, we built technology so that you could actually talk to Congress and tell them what you felt. But did I actually do the things that I should have done? Did I actually speak up 13 years ago? Well, I didn't. So I'm a part of the problem as well. I sent my kids to university only to have to set them straight. Now, my kids are amazing kids to begin with, but I constantly had to have conversations with them about thinking for yourself, not letting professors do the thinking for you. I look at logic based on experience, not based on inexperience. Don't create a false environment that you live in because you're not willing to actually do the work and do the research. Right? It's funny that I get in conversations with young people all the time, and those young people always say the same thing. Well, you didn't see it on CNN, or let me show you an article. And they show me an article, and then I go one step deeper, and I do research on the person that wrote that article. And I was like, did you know that that person has been in this country for the last 6 years, took advantage of our opportunity only to write about the fact that there's no opportunity here? This is really things that are happening. This is things that are happening in our country. We're having people with no experience and or that have been indoctrinated write about what truth is. And then we have the media come out and tell us what truth is. So I got to tell you, the further I get into this rabbit hole and the conversations I have with you, I am incredibly proud to say that Amy Barrett is a part of the Supreme Court of the United States. That to me is unbelievable. And I'm going to show you a couple clips. We're going to have a little bit of fun here. But I want to tell you that, frankly, we have an obligation to get involved. So I took it one step further. We started the podcast 6 months ago, just as the front of all this COVID stuff, this coronavirus. And people will say that, hey, look, you don't believe in the coronavirus. No, I believe it's a virus that's true. I believe it exists. I believe that it kills people. But I also believe that we've learned more over the last 6 months so that the fatality rate is actually 0.4%, which is almost less than that in the population of the flu. But I want to talk about some of the other things that we're able to do. And since I don't have Max here telling me what I can and can't do, Josh, this feels great.
I'm trying. You're just ignoring me.
Are you sending me stuff?
Well, I sent a few things, and I was giving you the hand signals, and then you just,
Okay. Let me add, Josh. It says that, and Trump has not gotten us any new foreign wars. He's actually gotten us out of wars. And he's actually destroyed ISIS, right? He's stopped that spread of radicalism across the Middle East. That, by the way, is saving lives there, not just saving lives here, right? So I want to talk to you about this other organization we built, FEC United, right? And frankly, Facebook has actually blocked us from actually doing anything on Facebook. Twitter has actually suppressed us. John Tig Tigan, right? An American hero. They've written about him and said, oh, he's just a contractor. They've minimalized. They've done the same thing they do about history, right? They've had this revisionist history where they take an American hero that ran into fire, facing certain death, understanding he was facing certain death, violated orders in order to do that, to go save American lives. He did that. Yet you don't hear anything about that. All you hear is, here's a guy that started an organization called United American Defense Force, right? Which is an organization in the community, protecting the community from looters and rioters and people that want to burn businesses down, right? They want to disgrace him. And the media gets involved in it. And they let foreign actors, right? I mean foreign, people that are less than one generation in this country that do not understand the opportunity they've been given, write bad stuff about people that have risked their lives for the American dream, to give other people opportunity. Yeah, well, they did that. So we started FEC United, Faith, Education, Commerce, right? And we've got 87,000 members in Colorado, and it's growing. Like, we have other states. We have, I think, 9 or 10 other states at this point that have come out and said, hey, look, when the infrastructure is correct and it's less malleable, we would like that structure put into our state, right? And so we're creating these chapters so we can represent communities, we can represent organizations, businesses, give businesses a voice with this power in numbers environment. And the second, on education, stop this indoctrination. So we have a law and policy system we're going to build so that we can actually do the things that I've talked to you about building. And we've put hundreds of thousands of dollars so far into it, only to watch the media write really bad things. The tech companies do everything they can to weaponize us, because anytime you go from 0 to 87,000, anytime you start seeing the sentiment build on an organization that empowers people in the community, these guys get afraid. They're afraid of it. So we're doing our part. I'm doing my part. Max is doing his part. This organization is doing its part. And the whole reason why we do it, and I'm sorry, I'm not actually paying attention to any of your comments. I go back and I'll read them later. But the reason why we did it is not because I needed something more to do, right? Matter of fact, I'm exhausted. I work really hard. We have lots of different organizations. We employ nearly 200 people. But that's not really why I do it. I do it for the generations, for my kids, my grandkids, for generations I'll never even be able to meet, that I'll be long and gone, but at least I will have sacrificed something and given something to preserve what we have as a nation. So that's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. We're at a place now where sacrifice is everything. And if we don't start sacrificing now, then we'll have nothing to stand up for. And you could say, oh, I'm giving my all. Are you? Are you really giving your all? I mean, I appreciate that you watch our podcast. I appreciate that you participate in the podcast. I appreciate when you call, when you give us your thoughts. But it's not enough. I think that, frankly, we got to get to the point where you're willing to talk about it to everyone around you, that you're unafraid, that when you drop that sign in your front yard, that it means something. And when someone takes that sign, you go get another sign, you put that sign in its place. Not say, they took my sign. Well, why don't you have a sign? They took it. So what if they took it? Go get another one. Walk right down to the nearest office that supports the values that you support, grab their sign, say, I'm going to support you. And then drop $5 or $10 or $10. And if you can't afford that, great, give them $2. Do something to support a cause. And secondly, get involved in a cause, right? Do something. You're like, I work 70 hours a week. Okay. So 70 hours a week means that if you work 24 hours a day, you'd actually still have 4 days left to do something. And I know you got to sleep and you got to eat and you got to have, things to do for your family. But I am going to tell you that we have to start fighting. So it's a great step that we have a Supreme Court justice that I think will stand for and interpret laws the way they were intended to be interpreted when we built the Constitution. So I want to have a little fun now, and I want to get into some of the tweets that were out there. So this is some funny stuff. Like you can't make some of this stuff up, right? So we're gonna play some of those tweets. Let's go to cut or image 2. So this is from, oh my gosh. This is from Slate. Like the wives in The Handmaid's Tale, Barrett would not face the full consequence of her judicial decisions. Right? So this is weaponization, by the way. This is advocacy in an organization. Let's go to image 3. So unborn generations will suffer from Amy Coney Barrett. I just want you to understand that if the left their lips are moving, they're actually lying. And in this case, it's actually worse because what he's saying, like everything else the left does, like the evil that it is, he's saying the opposite of what will actually happen. See, those babies won't suffer for generations to come because those babies will still be alive. How about that? I'm going to drop the mic or drop this, whatever this is, little thing. That's the reality.
Those mics are expensive. Don't you drop anything.
I'm not dropping the mic. I'm not dropping it. I don't think I could anyway. I have to tear it off of here. So it's funny that you talk about babies dying, but they're not going to die. Let's go to image 4. This is a picture of Amy Coney Barrett being sworn in by Justice Thomas. And by the way, he faced more scrutiny in his confirmation. It was unbelievable. The amount of vileness that came from the left when Clarence, what's that? All right, let's go to 8. A black Supreme Court justice just swore in a female Supreme Court justice, and the only people who are unhappy about it are Democrats. I mean, I want you to think about that. That, by the way, is progress. You have a black conservative justice swearing in a woman justice who, by the way, she ate everyone's lunch. I don't care if you were a Republican or Democrat asking her questions. She ate your lunch. All right, let's go to image 5. This, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't see it, I'm just going to describe the picture. This is President Trump with a shit-eating grin on his face. It is just beautiful. And he is basically saying, yes, we have won this fight. Now we need to finish it. Let's go to image 6. This is obviously a meme that's been doctored. It's a cereal box with a cereal, and on the cereal box it says, "Your tears, greatness in every bite," and it says "vote," and it has President Trump on the box, and President Trump is eating that cereal of liberal tears. It's really nice, and he's actually eating 2% milk, which is good for him, right? So let's go to 7. So this is actually a headline. Democrats lash out. Schumer vows to make Republicans regret historic confirmations. Dems will retaliate if they take control. Vote. You know what that tells me? Vote and keep voting. And on November 4th, let's have a whole year of pushing down these loony leftists. Let's fire them from the universities. Let's build our own universities, build our own schools, which, by the way, I'm going to plug it again. FEC United, one of the things we're going to do inside of one of the C3s that we've developed is we're going to build schools. And we're going to go into communities and we're like, hey, listen, you guys want a school? You want to teach your kids really what civics is about? You want to teach them about history? You want them to make a decision on who they are as a person? I didn't say that you can't be gay, right? I didn't say that. I'm saying you don't recruit kids to be gay. Now, how I feel about, being gay or not being gay, I have gay friends. And everybody says, oh, you have gay friends. I have gay family members, right? It's not just one person. And frankly, I accept them where they are, not where I want them to be. But frankly, I do wonder in my mind if indoctrination in the school is causing what we're seeing right now. And I believe it is. I believe that they're trying to make people just have a kind of jumbled self-conscious, right? And question who they are. It's ruining people's lives. That's what it's doing. All right, so I want to play why don't you play cut 5. This is a Trump confirmation celebration video.
On this October evening, The First Lady and I welcome you to the White House to bear witness to history. In a few moments, we will proudly swear in the newest member of the United States Supreme Court, Justice Amy Coney Barrett. She is one of our nation's most brilliant legal scholars, and she will make an outstanding justice on the highest court in our land. The American people have been profoundly impressed to learn of her achievements, her compassion, her generosity, her faith, and her sterling character. Justice Barrett made clear she will issue rulings based solely upon a faithful reading of the law and the Constitution as written, not legislate from the bench. Justice Barrett, as you take your oath tonight, the legacy of our ancestors falls to you. The American people put their trust in you and their faith in you as you take up the task of defending our laws, our Constitution, and this country that we all love.
What else do you say about that, right? You know, I can tell you President Trump has grown up in the office. And what I mean by that is I think he's been humbled by the opportunity to lead the American people. And, you know, we're going to really quickly just put up a picture of Amy Coney Barrett's family. So this, by the way, if you don't know, is Amy's family. And those are her 7 kids. You notice anything interesting about that picture? They're beautiful. They're beautiful. Yeah.
That's what I noticed. They are absolutely beautiful, Joe.
Yeah.
Beautiful family.
And that's what happens when you raise your family with God-driven values. Sorry, but that's, and she did. Yeah, she adopted 2 kids. Actually, I think she adopted 3. Yeah, I think she adopted 3. But that's when you are led by your faith. I mean, just imagine what it would take to actually be a judge, to be as sharp as she is, to raise 7 kids with her husband, right? To have a career that has led her to be the Supreme Court justice, and to have a family that beautiful, that just, I mean, I don't know what else to say. That is the embodiment of being an American. That picture right there. That's the embodiment of giving. That's the embodiment of what I just said. 71% of people on the right actually give 5.7 times more than those on the left. So why? Why is it we're so giving? Why is it that we are so silent, yet we give so much? Why is it that that's what that family looks like? And it's a beautiful family, yet we get attacked by this evil underpinning on the left. Because that's really what's happening. That's what's happening. So,
Joe, I am going to do something special here.
Yeah.
Now is the time for you to have what Max would say, your final thought.
All right. So my final thought, and I ran a little bit over today. I do appreciate you guys staying with me. So my final thought is always going to be that, hey, I'm incredibly proud of what ACB has done. But I want you to know that you have an obligation to give back. You have an obligation to sacrifice and give to generations to come. You have an obligation to teach your kids, to make sure that you speak up when there's ideology being taught in their schools. You have an obligation to tell your kids to stand up, right? So that not punish them because they went outside of the norm of what the teacher says, but when they speak up and call something wrong, that you support them in calling it wrong, right? That you don't punish them, and you don't let the system punish them either. So courage is more infectious than fear. That's the last thing that I have. So I want to tell you there's a couple ways you can support us. You can actually obviously check out our store if you want to support the podcast. We are on the Apple Podcast, Daily, Google Play Store, Spotify, obviously YouTube. What did I miss? Did I miss something? Podbean. We're everywhere, right? So just go there and download it. And if you can, leave us a comment if you would. Give us a good review. Download. Yeah. Hey, we do love you. We definitely are, we're honored to get the opportunity to speak with you guys. So, all right. Until next time, hopefully we get Max back on. When we get Max back, probably. I'm trying to get him back tomorrow. Please, Max, come back tomorrow. Or maybe we'll have a guest tomorrow. Maybe I'll bring Tig or another guest on tomorrow to have a podcast. As always, Conservative Daily Podcast. Until tomorrow.